Hi guys, welcome to Random Musings with Shirley, where we normally talk about Bible characters. And today we shall be dissecting one of the twin stories in the Bible, and that's the story of, guess who? Esau and Jacob. However, we're going to be looking at Esau's story in isolation, carefully looking at Esau's life, trying to get into Esau's mind to analyze possible reasons why he gave up his birthrights for a meal, trying to find out what Esau was thinking. And thirdly, we're going to look at what Esau could have done better. Also look at how Esau's story translates into our world today. And finally, look at lessons that we can learn from Esau's story. Esau's story can be found in the book of Genesis 25, verse 25. And if you jump into Genesis 26, verse 34, and the whole of Genesis 27 talks about Esau's story, how he gave up his birthright for a meal, and how also it was how his blessing was stolen from him by his twin brother. I pray that we all get blessed as we listen and we analyze this story together. A peep into the story. Isaac and Rebekah gave birth to twin boys, one Esau, the other Jacob. Esau was recorded to be a hairy man, and Jacob was a smooth-skinned man. Esau eventually grew up to be a skillful hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a mild man dwelling in the tent, like living the soft boy life. And on this fateful day, Esau came back from hunting, very tired, hungry, and then he saw that his brother had cooked a bowl of stew. And then he went to meet Jacob. Jacob, can you please give me out of this red stew? Let me have a taste out of this stew before I die. I'm so famished. And then Jacob replied, sell me your birthright as of this day. What did we carry? What did we throw, brother Jacob? Anyways, Esau said, what is the use of this birthright to me if I die? You can take the birthright. Just let me have a taste of the stew lest I die. And Jacob, for reassurance sake, Jacob said, smart guy, swear to me as of this day that the birthright is automatically mine. And Jacob said, so be it, done. And that was how Jacob gave him red stew. In fact, the Bible recorded that he added bread to it. He added bread to the meal. Esau ate, and the Bible recorded that he even despised, his birthright after eating. And life continued. When Esau was about 40 years old, he took wives from places his parents did not approve of. That happened in Genesis 26, verse 34. Let's jump straight into Genesis 27, just a summary of what happened. Here, Isaac was really old and his eyes were dim that he could not really see anymore. And he knew that death could happen at any time. So he called his favorite son, which happened to be Esau, to prepare a savory meal for him, his favorite just as he liked it, not knowing that Rebekah, his wife, was eavesdropping into the conversation. Immediately Esau left, Rebekah told Jacob about the conversation she heard. And then they both plotted a plan of how they would steal this blessing from Esau. When Esau got back with the meal, thinking that, let me get my father's blessing, happy and elated. And then he said, Dad, I'm back with the meal. Now you can eat and then bless me. And his father was like, what? Esau? Who was the first person I blessed? He was really dumbfounded. And then they got to know that definitely Jacob was the one that deceived him, and he had already blessed Jacob. And Esau was really livid after this. He was asking his father if there was any more blessings for him to be blessed with. And his father said he's literally blessed Jacob with everything. And after persuasion, his father said, okay, he blessed him with a few blessings left. And then he said that this yoke will be off you once you become restless. So because of this, Esau even became more despised his brother and plotted in his heart to kill Jacob once they finished mourning Isaac. This eventually got to Rebekah's hearing, and she sent Jacob to her brother Laban to go stay there, for a while till Esau's wrath calms a bit. That was how Esau was supplanted of his blessings the second time. The first was his birthright, and the second was the blessing that was due to him as the firstborn. That's just a summary of how Esau lost his birthright and his blessing to Jacob, his brother. Now, let's go into possible reasons why Esau gave up his birthright for a meal. Let's try to get into Esau's head. What was he thinking? Because we need to put ourselves in this character's shoes just to understand what they could have been thinking. Now, for me, I think number one is he could have been really very hungry, overwhelming hunger. He probably must have gone through a lot of physical exhaustion, and he might think that if he doesn't put anything inside his mouth right now, it's automatic, he might go straight into coma. So he must have been really hungry for him to say that, what is my inheritance of use to me if I die? Secondly, I think Esau underestimated that transaction. In his mind, he might think that they are just mere words, Jacob will forget, and maybe the blessing will still automatically come back to him. So he could have thought that Jacob was just bluffing. I'll still get the birthright no matter what, I'm the firstborn. That could have been a reason. Thirdly, I think Esau did not have a clear understanding of the significance of his birthright, because for him to have traded it, for a meal, it might mean that he just thought it was a title, and then Esau could have it. Maybe it doesn't really carry that much of importance as people were saying. So he just thought it was just a title. Let Jacob have it if he really wants it that badly. By virtue of this, I had to do a quick dive into what birthright actually means, what it entails. And I found out that it's an ancient Israelite culture where firstborn sons have double portion of inheritance, family leadership, and often most times spiritual responsibility. So before they had priests, the firstborn sons would act as the priest of the household. And I think maybe Esau saw that as a huge responsibility, and he wanted to avoid being responsible. And he thought, okay, what is even this? What's the use of this birthright that I'm going to be taking over this huge responsibility, whereas I'm just a skillful hunter? Let me just stay in my lane. Let me day my day. Let me day my lane as a hunter instead of taking up, additional responsibility. Lastly, for me, I think Esau had this trust in Isaac, as the firstborn, that his father was still blessing. So if he missed the birthright, he still has the blessing, and he wasn't going to miss both ways. So he felt like, okay, there's a backup plan, which is the blessing from his father as the firstborn. So if he lets go of the birthright, then there's something to fall back on, or something to fall back to, which is the firstborn blessing. Now, let's go to the better choices I feel Esau could have made. One, I think he could have just tried to exercise self-control over his appetite. Hunger doesn't really kill, like that. People fast for, Jesus fasted for 40 days, 40 nights, and this was just one day, according to the Bible. So he could have just tried to control his appetite, or maybe, and then prepare a meal for himself, or even ask, because Isaac was a very wealthy man, he could have asked one of his servants to prepare a meal for him as quickly as possible. Secondly, I think Esau could have negotiated differently. There were so many other things to bargain with other than his birthright. He could have said, I will pay you later, with whatever means of exchange they were using then, maybe cowries or whatever. He could have also offered to do the next house chores, the one that Jacob was supposed to do, even though they had many servants. He could have also said, okay, I'll give you game from my next hunt. At least he was a hunter. So there were other things he could have done, to bargain with instead of using his birthright. Also, he should have questioned Jacob's motive. He should know that his brother, because they've lived together, had this scheming spirit, and he should have refused to fall into that trap. But he didn't question Jacob's motive. He fell for it right there and then. Lastly, for me, I believe that they have a mom, Rebecca, and she will cook. If he had just exercised little patience, he would have eaten his mom's food. He would have just eaten the food that they were going to prepare for that day. So little patience could have, salvaged the situation. Let's look at how Esau's story translates into our world today. Let's see how we can connect with that story. Number one, we now choose immediate gratification over long-term reward. We can see that in Esau's story. Esau decided to give up his lifelong blessings for a bowl of stew. Let's bring it down to our world. Now, let's look at maybe education. People preferred not to stress themselves over reading, but rather go over some temporary pleasures of life. Let me just quickly watch this movie instead of reading their books. Or for instance, let's go to the area of health. People would say, oh, I'm going to take this one. You will only die once. Even though you know it's going to be detrimental to your health, you prefer to still take that junk food, as it were, compared to eating something healthy that would not harm your body. So sometimes they will say, go for exercise. You'll be like, man, I cannot come and kill myself, which you know that would help you. But rather, you'll prefer to, lie on the bed, to relax, to just, enjoy yourself, and as against, going for exercise or trying to eat healthy. Other ways you can also look at it is in terms of spending. This time around, some people just spend things on frivolous things, things that have no real value to their lives, as against saving or as against investing in something that will bring in more value into their life. So most of the time we do more of things that will give us quick benefits, quick gratification over looking at long-term benefits. Secondly, we can see that in our world today, we don't really value spiritual things anymore. In the case of Esau, he didn't value his birthright, which stood as a spiritual or has this spiritual or covenant significance. He threw it away all for a bowl of stew. Now in our world today, we treat spiritual things as optional. They'll be like, don't bring Jesus into this matter, or don't bring God into this matter. This is real life thing. Let's do business as per business, as how it is. Leave Jesus out of it. But God has to be involved in every single affairs of our lives. So it tells us that sometimes we treat spiritual things too as optional in our everyday activities. Now to our third point, making impulsive decisions when under pressure. Esau let hunger dictate for him, which made a life-altering decision for him. And we can see that in our world today, people make rash decisions once they're under stress. You can see that in our marriages, you can see that in workplaces, even in our leadership positions. So when people are under stress, they tend to make some impulsive decisions. They tend to get, very emotional, and they let their emotions, take better judgment instead of making logical decisions. So we can see that plays out so many times in our day-to-day activities as well. Lastly, for me, I think it's that desire to avoid responsibility. We've talked about this in previous musings as well regarding other Bible characters. But regarding the story of Esau, I think he might have seen his birthright, or we might deduce that Esau saw his birthright as being burdensome, and he didn't want to shoulder that responsibility. So he chose freedom from it. He wanted to abstain from any kind of responsibility that would add more to him being a hunter. He probably didn't want, any of that kind of responsibility anymore. So, likening it to today's world, we see that play out in marriages, we see that play out in our society at large, in our careers, in almost every sphere of life, where people tend not to take responsibilities for their actions. People shy away from responsibility, and the aftermath of this is now these actions eventually becomes regretful much later in life. Just like Esau, for instance, he later became, he regretted his decision, where at the point where his brother also stole his blessing. So he felt bitter even towards his brother now. When all these things happen, regret usually follows. And the aftermath of this is now we tend to regret these decisions once it's too late, when nothing can be done about it. For instance, where there's maybe broken marriages or broken home or lost career, or maybe in the case of deteriorating health or missed opportunities in some cases. So, these decisions sometimes come as a result of making hasty or rash decisions. In the case of Esau, for instance, he wept bitterly. He regretted it, but it was really too late because his brother had already stolen his blessings. Okay, so let's go into the lessons that we can learn from Esau's story. Number one for me is to be able to tarry, to be able to tarry in God's presence. Let's wait on God. Let's be able to trust and wait. And if you're trusting God, it has to do with waiting as well. Then number 2 point for me is to be futuristic. We shouldn't, this fast win, quick wins, easy wins shouldn't be our goal or our target anymore. We should learn to be futuristic, learn to take a step back, see what's going on, let's weigh the pros and the cons before making some decisions, especially if they are lifelong decisions that would affect our destinies. We can even ask ourselves questions like, am I trading eternal values for temporary pleasures? Or am I trading what I need most for what I want now? Things like that will help us to make better decisions. I also believe that we should learn to protect what God has given us, like talents, like our faith, like relationships, our skills, our integrity, things that God has blessed us with, that He has given into our care. We should protect it at all costs. In the case of Esau, it was his birthright, which he discarded like pack of cards. We should learn to protect the gifts, the talents, the relationship that God has entrusted into our care. Finally, my other take-home lessons from Esau's story are honing or sharpening your negotiation skills, which is needed in the business world, in our careers, is needed in the homes, in the families where people, families, husbands, partners negotiate, parents would negotiate with children. So it's a skill that is very key. Another thing is self-control, which is a fruit of the spirit, which we can always ask God for that. And actually, you can ask God for anything. Also, one of the lessons is having the spirit of discernment, which is very, very important. I would like to hear your thoughts, your views regarding this story as well. Let us learn together. Let us also analyze this story together so that we can grow more in the spirit. And please like, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel where we're able to discuss many more Bible characters. And by the grace of God, hope to see you next time. Stay strong. Stay tuned. God bless you and God loves you.